Coming up right now at 6.
We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic.
Today, President Donald Trump declares the opioid crisis is a public health emergency. The president, though, stopped short of declaring the opioid epidemic a national emergency, something his opioid commission had recommended and something the president has promised to do several times. Now, this means there will be no new money or resources to address the opioid crisis, no treatment on demand, which recovery advocates have been begging for. The president's declaration does shift some federal funds around from other medical efforts to the opioid crisis and cracks down specifically on the opioid fentanyl.
We are requiring that a specific opioid, which is truly evil, be taken off the market.
The president's statement are words without the money.
The president says the goal is to reduce addiction to prescription pain medication and illicit drugs, including heroin. By law, a public health emergency can only last for 90 days, but it can be renewed any number of times for as long as necessary.
The numbers are so out of control they don't make sense anymore. President Trump referred to the nearly 600,000 Americans, or 60,000 Americans, I should say, who died last year from drug overdoses. In 2015, opioid deaths comprised more than half of that number at nearly 33,000. Think of it this way, 33,000 people is like the population of Annapolis simply vanishing. And people battling addiction and trying to get clean are in the fight of their lives. Mike Valerio has the story of one man who is part of a trailblazing program that might just be the way out.
I feel like there's a lot of possibility, a lot of things happening right now that I didn't expect to be happening. So
you didn't expect it all in the least?
No.
So
15 days out of jail, you think I'm going to be sitting with USA 9?
But Dan is sitting here with us, and of course, his mentor Dave. Dave is with Catholic Charities, and he gave his new friend his first job out of jail. He wanted to keep Dan in the spotlight, though, so we started by asking what it's like. How could he describe having his life gripped by this epidemic?
I grew up in a house that was very strict as well. My dad never even had a six-pack in the fridge.
But this is the thing about the opioid crisis. It often starts with prescriptions. For Dan, it was pain pills after back surgery. Then, years later, a friend gave him oxycodone so he could feel numb when it came to family problems.
Basically what it did for me is it just numbed me to everything. You know, I was going through a rough time in my life, life in general.
He eventually was arrested, behind bars for 16 months. But Catholic Charities and its new Welcome Home Reentry program was there to meet Dan from day one of freedom. Art Bennett is Catholic Charities president and CEO.
The big change that we're making here is, in addition to working in the prisons to help the prisoners when we can, as much as we can, we're now trying to help them when they get out to reduce the likelihood that they'll go back.
You say this is literally a godsend.
I would say it's literally a godsend. I mean, I would say that I would go as far as saying that God has literally put me here to do this.
In Arlington, Mike Valerio, WUSA 9.
So if you're wondering about the biggest way you can help, Catholic Charities is looking for volunteers to make these personal connections with people like Dan who are just getting out of jail.